Welcome to the Learn True Health podcast. I'm your host, Ashley James. This is
episode 561. Well, I am so excited for today's guest. We have back on the show a frequent flyer, Jennifer Saltzman from takeyoursupplements.com. You know, Jen, when you go to those, you drive up to those little coffee stands and you get a punch card. I'm punching, you're getting your free drink.
Yes, I'm on my 10th punch. I get a free one next time. Cool. Who do I get to punch? The question is, who do I get to punch?
So, Jen, you were in episode 9 and 10. You were one of our you're a veteran of the Learn True Health podcast, episodes 9 and 10, where you teach us and talk to us about Pilates and your spiritual awakening. Episode 31, where you talk about healing supplements. Episode 179 and 180, where Jen interviews me. So that's fun if you want to learn more about my background. And then also episode 458, where we go more into what is Take Your Supplements and the healing program that you can be a part of by going to takeyoursupplements.com. And now today I'm very excited because Jen and I were speaking recently and she goes, I have this amazing, and I've actually known this about Jen for many years. She has this amazing immune kit. She has a program where if you want to stop getting sick every winter, you follow that program all year long. You could start now, and you'll have one of those first winter ever where you don't get sick. It's the coolest thing. And then if you do get sick, there's a immune kit that she has that blows it out of your system. It's scientifically proven to blow it out of your system. And I actually went and did some digging on the ingredients and the studies behind them. And sure enough, it does. There's been many clinical studies citing that it reduces the days of symptoms or the days that you're sick. And it's all natural, which is so great. That's what we're here for. So, Jen, I'm really, really excited to dive into this topic with you today. Thanks for coming on and teaching this particular topic right now where we need to know it the most, right? Where they call it flu season. I call it sugar season because the sugar that everyone eats from Halloween to all the way to Valentine's Day is lowering our immunity and increasing our inflammation and distorting gut health. They call it flu season, but really it's just the holiday food that we're eating is messing with us, but we can overcome. And that's what you're here to talk about today. So welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks so much. So glad to be here. It's funny that you should call it. Did you say it was trigger season or sugar season?
I said sugar season, but
sugar season.
Trigger.
Well, one of the things that I have a strategy, right, around optimization of immunity. Okay. And it's not a one thing. It's a foundational system, which is basically optimization of one's entire being and health, which of course includes our immune system. But one of the things that I like to help people understand is that there's always a good, better, best. And when we're in sugar season, in the holiday season, we're particularly vulnerable actually, because it's so scientifically proven what happens when we consume sugar. I actually did a bit of a deep dive into this in preparation for this interview. I've known this and I've stayed away from sugar myself, but kind of the geeking out part of it is that literally 10 to 30 minutes after we consume our immune system starts to basically break down. And we lose a lot of immunity within a really short period of time. And that's a big piece of helping people understand how to navigate through that. There are strategies and systems that I help clients to those that are willing to go the whole course, what they would do, or those that are willing to put their foot in or their toe in or whatever. So that's what I love about working with my clients is that there's never a one size fits all. There's, hey, can we take you a next step up on the chain of ideal living? Plug in where you can. We're going to help you with, strategy, accountability, etc. So this concept of immune health and not getting sick is something that I'm really, really passionate about and have been for the last probably close to 30 years. What I do with clients is, in general, when I support a person in their journey toward a better way of life, is I explain to them that the body needs certain essential nutrients to optimize function at a cellular level. Everybody gets that. The doctors tell people just to eat well and, get it from your food. We know, based on the, years and years of research with the wonderful doctor that I'm so passionate about studying with, and he's been on your show, Dr. Joel Wallach, etc. We know a lot about, we've talked about that a lot. It's so important when a person becomes healthier to realize that their body is so wise that it's going to give feedback even better when they're healthier. Because at first,
Mm.
it's just this big forest, right? And a lot of unhealthy trees in the forest. There's a lot of things going on. We're feeling like we're blah, or we're getting sick regularly, or we don't have energy, or we're depressed, or we're just not well. And we actually have no idea what to do first, second, third, or fourth. And that's where this kind of coaching that I am been doing for the last 20 years, 20 plus years now with clients, is about, hey, where do I start and how do I get the most bang for my buck with what I'm doing? And that's where I work with people on a general immune optimization plan, right? So a general health optimization plan would include the foundational nutrition, the elimination of inflammatory factors in the diet, and some lifestyle changes. Again, where a person is ready to plug in and willing to plug in. That's done with everybody that I work with, because if I don't do that, then anything else that a person might try to do it might be helpful, but it's not going to be as helpful as if building a very, very strong foundation and figuring out how to eliminate things that are particularly working against a person in their diet, particularly, or even in their thought patterns, right? Because we're all about being spirit, soul, mind, and body. And so helping to eliminate those things that are kind of blatantly roadblocks to well-being. Unfortunately, sugar happens to be in a pretty big category in that way, especially the overconsumption thereof. So, not to get too off tangent in the whole sugar department, but one of the things that I do find to be extremely valuable for my clients is that when they're stuck on that train, it's actually a physiological addiction, right? Not to
Mhm.
mention an emotional addiction. And there's all kinds of ways to unpack why people are eating so much sugar, besides the advertising and the cultural dynamics of all of that. I actually do strategic things to help people mitigate the cravings. And we work very closely with, again, where people are willing to make small changes to optimize the way that their blood sugar stays balanced and that their immune system is regulated rather than so dysregulated by consuming things like, simple sugars and Cokes and, that kind of stuff, the sodas and the ones that are just blatantly affecting people. So that's the foundation, right? I work with people foundationally, but then I also have what I call like an emergency strategic immune response system or kit. And so once we've got someone's health dialed in, or maybe they're dialed in with working with someone else, but they're still getting sick or whatever, but they have their foundational nutrition is good, right? They're eating healthy, they're taking their essential vitamins, minerals, amino acids, essential fatty acids, etc. But now they're going to go on a cruise, right? Or their kids are in school and their kids are bringing home all kinds of crap, and it's just runny noses, or they get run down. Whatever happens, winter happens. Winter is not a bad thing, but winter can be a stressor on top of a weakened immune system. So what I do is I interview people and I find out a couple of things. One, do we have that foundation under wraps, or in a good flow? Two, how is the gut health? Because as you and I both know, and many people are figuring out, our health really does begin and end in the gut. There are so many components to making sure that a gut is healthy. But if the gut is not healthy, the immune system is going to suffer. We know that there's an innate immune system that's built into the gut. So we work with optimization of gut health is one of the parts that is not the emergency This isn't happening at the emergency level, like I just feel like I'm getting sick right now. This is preventative, right? One of the things that I do in that category of optimization of gut health is I work with a seasonal change probiotic implementation of a particular probiotic complex that I use, which is above most that I've seen because of the addition of certain enzymes that help break down things that contain nattokinase and serrapeptase and the things that help optimize cardiovascular health. And there's all kinds of studies around what that does in the system. I do that at season changes preventatively for people who really just don't want to get sick. They will implement that every fall, every spring. They just go through one course of that, and that bolsters up the microbiome. So that's part of the preventative plan. There's also some things that I sort of interview people on to find out whether they're particularly prone to a histamine response with regards to getting sick, meaning do they get sick when there's a lot of pollens in the air or they're around cats, and then that would trigger that kind of thing so that they're aware that their immune system is weakened because of an allergy or a histamine response to whatever the thing is. And that's always going to be related back to the gut anyway, because all the bad bacteria and all the overgrowth of candida and yeast and parasites or whatever's going on is omitting or defecating, so to speak, right, within our own bodies, these things that are creating a higher histamine response. I'll work with people on particular formulations or use them, implement them that are extremely beneficial in lowering inflammation and mitigating the histamine response. That's kind of a stream of immune health that I always, ask about. And then everybody is encouraged to keep on hand an emergency kit of stuff to do in the event that somebody in their house gets sick, or they're going on like I said, going on a cruise or traveling internationally, or they end up having food poisoning or a respiratory thing. It doesn't really matter what it is. There's 3 to 5 things that I have people keep in a kit, and I'll go through some of the details of some of the strongest ones and the studies and why they work in just a minute here. But I encourage people to keep this on hand, some of which can be used maybe 2 to 4 times a week in the wintertime, if you will, like again, preemptively. But the key is if you start feeling anything, a little sniffle, a little scratchy throat, a little bit of distress in the gut, you hit it hard. And I teach people the exact way to implement that. And you do it for the next 3 days, which is really important, because if you hit it hard when you first feel something coming on and keep hitting it hard, chances of you getting sick are significantly reduced. And there's some studies that we've pulled up around the different ingredients that actually have been proven in these, double-blind studies and all this stuff that the scientists look at. So it's really exciting. I've helped many, 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 many people avoid getting sick. As a matter of fact, just working with the foundational nutrition that I do on a day-to-day basis with people, many of my clients, one of the first things that they report after, being on the supplements for about a year, I would say, because now they've been through the different seasons, right, is that I almost never get sick. That's what they say. Now, there are other people who need to have those extra things from the beginning because they're coming from a place of extreme immunity, not necessarily autoimmunity, but immune deficiency, I should call it. They've been on rounds and rounds of antibiotics because as a child, they were given antibiotics for different reasons. That's now has this just crazy effect of now killing off everything good in the gut. So now they're susceptible again to the overgrowth of candida and parasites and all the things we talked about. And so it's just this vicious cycle. I can think of one client in particular who came to me maybe about 2.5 years ago, and she was in the doctor's office constantly taking antibiotics. And she is now not even on all of the extra immune stuff that we supported her with. She really is just on the foundations, and she never gets sick anymore. But in the beginning, I had her on this, one of my favorite parts of this kit is something that I had her on from the very get-go on a daily basis. So I have a really systematic and strategic way that I like to teach people to become their own best advocate so that they can start listening to their body and applying these things as needed and knowing when to hit it hard and when they can back off, if that makes sense. I just am very passionate about that. And if it's okay, Ashley, I'd love to go through some of the most profound studies that I came up against with some of the ingredients in these things. Would that
Yeah,
be okay?
absolutely. Before you do, I want to share that a cousin of mine who works for a very large tech company, pretty high up there. This was back over 10 years ago. I had introduced her to the supplement program that you just talked about, the foundational nutrition program that fills in all the gaps where we're missing key nutrients, especially minerals. And her daughters got on it. She had to go to China to help the merger between her large tech company and another tech company, and she brought her whole team with her. And she was on the supplements for a month or two, and also following the dietary guidelines that optimize our health. There's certain foods that are recommended to eat and certain foods recommended to avoid to optimize health. It's just like across the board. And I know you give that list to everyone when they
I
sign
do.
up to chat with you at
Yes.
takeyoursupplements.com. So anyway, she went there and her entire team got sick, like pneumonia level sick. Everyone in her team was deathly ill except for her and her two daughters. And she was like, this is incredible. They were taking the supplements that she brought them with her. And these are whole food supplements. They're in ratio with, basically, if we were in the Garden of Eden, right? And all the nutrients that are supposed to be in our food were in our food at the levels they're supposed to be. That's what these supplements do. They fill in the gaps to that level, because we can look at, younger listeners won't know this, but the older listeners remember a carrot used to taste like candy. Now it tastes like cardboard. Tomatoes
Right.
you could just eat a tomato and it would be a food orgasm in your mouth. There'd be so much going on. Now it's like there's almost no flavor. And that is because our soil is anemic and the farming practices are meant to produce more quantity and less quality. And there are studies, you could just go Google this yourself, that food in the last, not even 100 years, in the last 50 years, has significantly less vitamins and minerals in it. And even we think of spinach, Popeye, the sailor man eating his spinach and getting strong from it, right? Spinach, we think iron, but you can grow spinach hydroponically. A lot of our greens are grown hydroponically. There's no iron. There's zero iron in spinach that's grown hydroponically because they don't add iron to the water. So a lot of foods are completely anemic of elements and minerals and very low in vitamins and thus low in healthy sugars and flavonoids and flavors. So we're starving. Even though we're getting calories, we're starving for micronutrients. So there my cousin was about just over 10 years ago in China. Her entire team was sick and her daughters never got sick the whole time. And she came home and told me about it and she swore up and down. She goes, these supplements are amazing. We just, our immune systems were so resilient and strong, and we fought it off, and we just had an amazing time. Our entire team had to get on drugs, and we're just dragging, and we weren't dragging. And she has never gotten off these supplements. She's been on them, and she swears she doesn't get sick anymore. She doesn't have the flu every year. And this story has been replicated. Every person I've talked to that goes through this program has this experience where people are kind of falling, the people are falling down around them, getting sick everywhere, and they don't get sick. Or if they do, it's not as severe as everyone else and they get over it so much faster. So that's the difference between, your body fully armed with the nutrients it needs and your body, crumbling under the weight of nutrient deficiency. So it's so important to get on the foundation nutrition. And for those that don't know, I'm just going to say Jennifer Saltzman is the most amazing health coach. I just have to edify you because you give so much of yourself away. People can sign up and talk to you for free. You should be charging thousands of dollars for what you do. And you can go to takeyoursupplements.com and talk to Jen for free, and she'll give you a program. Now you have to pay for the supplements yourself. And they're incredibly high quality, and there's a money back guarantee, so it's not like you're not trapped in anything. And the only thing there is to get is results. So it's very exciting what you provide for people. And so thank you. Thank you for everything you provide. And my listeners, they can go to the Facebook group, our Learn to Health Facebook group, and there's so many people singing your praise because they've worked with you and you've helped them. Having said that, so we have basically, you've outlined 2 programs. There's a foundation program, which you can go to takeyoursupplements.com and talk to Jen and get on that. And that's for all year round. And that's just for wellness all year round. With that program, I reversed my type 2 diabetes, my chronic adrenal fatigue, and got my fertility back. And now I have an almost 11-year-old son, and I was told I'd never have kids. This program that Jen helps people with gave me my life, gave me my health. And is the reason why I started the podcast in the first place, because I learned that we can heal ourselves. This program helps your body heal because it fills in the gaps of what you're missing from your diet, and also shows you how to eliminate certain things that are just throwing fuel on the fire, basically. We want to remove the things that are hurting us. So that's the foundation protocol, which even if the only thing you do is that, you will have incredible success with your immune system. But the main reason why I asked Jen today is to talk about her emergency immune system kit, because it's in the next month or 2, everyone's going to be up against or be around someone that's sick or maybe catch a little cold, and you want to blow it out. The second you start feeling symptoms, you want to have a kit you can run to in your medicine cabinet to blow it out. And I do. I love this kit, and I have used it. My son uses it. My husband uses it. We don't get sick all the time, but when we do start to feel like the tickle in the throat or you wake up with fever, I run to these. These are my go-to, and they blow it out. I can't tell you how many times over the last over 10 years, wake up with a sore throat, I immediately take these and it blows it out my first dose. I don't even have to keep repeating the doses. It's so cool. It's so effective. Okay, yeah, let's go through the science.
So effective. Well, speaking of the science, I just realized I'd love to share just the science about some of the most, I don't know, unique element of the particular program that I work with foundational health, having to do with the trace mineral portion,
Hmm.
and fulvic shale. There are some phenomenal research studies around having enough fulvic shale in your body, which is basically just trace minerals in the way that God and nature intended them to be. Whereas if we were farming in the way that we used to, or if we were doing things that we used to do before the advent of electricity, when we put our ashes back and all of that cycle was still in place, we would be getting enough. But since we aren't, I'm just going to read a couple things those trace minerals do on a cellular level. So they massively, first of all, they any other minerals, so elemental minerals of calcium and magnesium and any other minerals, they make them way more bioavailable. So that's partly just right there. Bioavailability is a huge deal, right? Because we can take vitamins, but if we're not digesting it or absorbing it, or it's not readily available in the system because it doesn't have the necessary cofactors the way that nature intended us to ingest things, we're not going to get very much out of it. So massively boosting mineral absorption. It's a super strong antioxidant inside of the cells and mitochondria, just the trace mineral portion of it. Cutting down oxidative stress to 30 to 50%, protects ATP energy production, lowers systematic inflammation, fixes leaky gut and feeds good bacteria, detoxifies heavy metals and glyphosate, which we now know is a problem in our massive food sources, pulls out aluminum, lead, cadmium, mercury, protects the brain, crosses the blood-brain barrier, has an antiviral effect, and better energy, less allergies, improved testosterone, improved hormone. That's why people who are just on our baseline program, or what we call our foundational nutrition, don't get sick, right? As nearly as much as everybody else, because they're getting their cells literally saturated with enough of these. There's 77 different trace minerals in the supplement. And the reason that it's like that is it literally comes straight out of the earth in a way that God and nature intended to it, and then is refined into a liquid and put at the foundation of the supplement. So that's
I've been
of
there.
You've
I've
been to
been
see the
where they,
mine. Yeah.
yeah. So calling it a mine makes it sound, I know it is called a mine, but it makes it sound a little weird because it's like, wait a second, the body can't digest rock. You can't go out into your backyard and eat soil and expect your body to absorb the minerals from it. This particular humic shale, which is in the basin in Utah, which used to be underwater. It used to be part of the ocean, but before that, it was a rainforest and dense in all minerals and just feet and feet and feet of these plants. Because plants, what they do is they absorb minerals and then they actually can digest minerals. We can't digest them, but plants do. Plants can break down minerals to digest them to make them absorbable for humans or animals, humans. And then when the plants digested it, then they were locked in the soil in this one area and they take it and they make a tea out of it and it becomes tiny, tiny particles of all the trace minerals. And it's so cool. This was the first supplement I ever took back when I was suffering incredibly. I had such bad out of control diabetes. I had such bad chronic adrenal fatigue that I could not wake up till about 11 in the morning. And then I couldn't even process human language till later on in the day because I was so depleted. I had my hormones tested and my cortisol was so low that the highest it would get, which would be later in the day, was a normal person's lowest. So like when you're sleeping, that was my highest level of cortisol my body could produce. I was dragging. I was suffering. I was crying in my pillow to sleep every night, just like suffering. And I was hungry all the time, all the time. Every 45 minutes I had to eat, I was just so hungry. And that was my body starving. It's called pica or cribbing, where the body is just starving. And I was in my 20s, I was just crying all the time to my husband, like, I feel so trapped in a body that is so sick and I just wanted out. I didn't want to die. I wanted to heal. I just didn't know how. And I kept going to doctor after doctor and they had nothing but drugs. And of course that doesn't solve anything. And then I got on this supplement, this one supplement that you're talking about, which is the 77 trace minerals. That day I took it, my husband turned to me, it was about 2 p.m. And I remember the day and he looked at me and he said, "You haven't eaten today." And I burst out crying. And that was the first day I took it because I burst out crying from tears of joy because I realized the hunger went away. First day on this supplement, the constant hunger went away. And then 5 days on this supplement, I woke up at 5 in the morning, full of energy. I jumped on top of my husband and looked him in the eyes and he looked back at me and said, "I don't know who you are. You're not the woman I married, but I'm keeping you." Within
Love
2
it.
weeks, my chronic adrenal fatigue was almost completely gone. We were going for walks. We started going to the gym. I started to have my life back. It gave me a leg up and it started to balance my blood sugar. Like everything came into balance. And one thing that you mentioned, it's so important that these trace minerals, which are, you can't find them in any other supplement out there. These trace minerals in this ratio, in this concentration, they escort nutrients into the cells. Like there's certain nutrients that can't get into the cells without the help of other nutrients. For example, B12 has a really hard time getting to the cells when we don't have enough lithium orotate. Lithium is naturally occurring in our water and in our soil. So if you don't have enough of that, then you can have a high concentration of B12 in your plasma, but it's low, very low inside your cells, especially red blood cells. And then you end up with anemia because you can't utilize iron. It's because you're low B12 in the cell. So it goes back to finding the cofactors that help to escort nutrients into the cells. And that's why I love the foundation nutrition that you talk about, because this is a complete program. It's all the nutrients your body needs. And then everything comes back online. And your body just starts to hum. It just starts to work. So of course your immune system would start to work. I also had chronic infections back in my 20s. I was on monthly antibiotics with chronic infections, and those turned off when I started to shop Whole Foods. Not the whole, I mean, yes, I went to Whole Foods grocery store, but not the grocery store. Whole Foods as in single ingredient. I would shop the perimeter of the grocery store and choose organic. At that point, I was still eating meat. So think of more like a paleo because I was eating meat and vegetables. I think I was even still doing dairy. It was just I switched to organic and I ate whole food, single ingredient foods, and I chose organic. And so I stopped eating the grains and the flours and the processed sugar. I still ate fruit, vegetables, nuts, seeds, legumes, beans, everything you could kind of go around the perimeter, whole ingredient foods. And within 1 month, my chronic infections went away. Now I still felt like crap because this was before I discovered everything else I needed to know, like the foundation nutrition you talk about. But knowing that when I ate at the dollar menu at some, fast food restaurant, within a week I could be sick again, getting back on antibiotics. And then I could go back to shopping the perimeter of the grocery store, cooking homemade meals that were single ingredient, broccoli, potato, chicken breast or legumes, right? And organic, and eat that way for a month, and all my infections went away. So we talk about foundation nutrition, obviously lifestyle and diet, and now you've got your emergency kit we want to get into, which everyone should have in their medicine cabinet.
Sure. If you don't mind, though, I'd really love to respond to a couple things that you spoke
Yeah.
about. So a couple things. One is, this is why I love working with clients individually. I mean, I will at some point probably do group coaching. I'm probably going to move into that direction at some point because it can be done that way. But what I love to do is discern where the person's going to get the most bang for their buck now, right? So that concept of cribbing is one. So when I work with a client, if they're hungry all the time, that's going to be a different strategy, right, from the get-go that I'm going to implement into their program with extra support for this specific concept with the trace minerals, right? They might do 2 or 3 bottles of trace minerals before we do anything else, particularly, if there's a certain profile going on, okay? And I don't need to get into all of that. But the other thing is that many times my clients will come up with massive gut issues and massive starvation issues. Okay. So they have IBS or whatever. They can't get their bowels under control and they're starving. So they're really, affected in terms of depletion, but also the body can't absorb anything. So this is where I think people get really frustrated and really stuck, and where working with someone like myself at Take Your Supplements is so valuable, because you have to do things in a particular order. And because we take comfort in certain foods and we have traditions and all these other things, it's important for somebody to explain to a person what value they might get out of, for example, not eating at the dollar menu. You know what I mean? And sometimes people need a bit of hand holding around this. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples, which is, I've had one client in particular who has had massive gut issues, IBS, type of things, chronic diarrhea mostly, right? We talked numbers of times about the inflammatory foods, and she's eliminated those from the diet, but was not willing to give up dairy. And it was finally when she did her own research, and I know you've had some experiences around this too, where it's like some people really can't tolerate dairy. And it's really sad because, I mean, I used to be a cheeseaholic, but I had to give it up when I was very young because it affected me particularly in my immune response. If I even now would eat too much cheese or even a little bit, usually I will probably have mucus in my throat or just get a sore throat within a few days. And I'm not trying to speak negative about myself or anything like that. I think I possibly could overcome that, maybe, but I've even been down that road with people who think they can, which was this particular client. She's like, I'm going to do the whole 20-day gut reset program. I'm going to do it all. And she did it all and her gut got way better. But the second she started eating dairy, she couldn't overcome the diarrhea. Right? Until she gave it up, I should say, she wasn't free of it completely. Understanding that about ourselves, then we get to make an educated choice as to whether it is worth for us to suffer and indulge, or whether we want to thrive and find healthy alternatives and other things that we can do instead. And that's where I can also really help coach clients into making different changes. I generally do charge for that portion of getting into real dietary changes and how they can implement different things to satisfy the dairy cravings and things like that. But there are so many things out there that can make a really big difference in terms of now is the best time ever to go gluten-free and dairy-free, because people are figuring out that there are ways to make really tasty food that is healthy and does not have any dairy in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
The other big thing about food and the immune system is the importance of enough protein. A lot of times, some of the doctors that I work with, when I get on group calls at times and they're speaking to my clients because they're invited into this group, particularly when there's a chronic immune issue, people getting sick all the time. One of our doctors will say in particular, I want everything on your plate to be 50% protein. And that's not easy to do. And then there's digestive issues around that. Sometimes we need to implement enzymes to help a person break down that protein. So, one of the things that I have been really intentional about in this last season is helping to figure out for people to get enough protein who have dysregulated or non optimal digestive function. Because it's great to sit down and eat a whole steak or whatever if you're a carnivore type person, or even a lot of eggs, but not everybody can digest that easily. So one of the things that I've been working with a lot, and this isn't part of the emergency program. This is a general foundational part of the program to get enough protein, right? And that is working with our specific form of collagen, which is very, very unique in the market because of the addition of these particular collagen that's called Optizyme, and it breaks down the actual 5 different types of collagen that are in the peptides. We're talking about things that, all the different types of enzymes, the protease and the amylase and the bromelain and the lipase, but it also does have nattokinase and serrapeptase and those things that make it really bioavailable. So for me, for example, I used to have to eat either meat or eggs at most meals because I was really weak. I had immune dysregulation and just so many different things. They didn't know what the heck was wrong with me, but I had chronic immune issues and chronic fatigue and chronic digestive issues and muscular and skeletal issues and all kinds of problems, which I think we talked about early on in episode 9 and 10, which pushed me in the role of learning Pilates and into all the things that I've learned. And I'm so grateful because every time I learn something, I feel very compelled to share it with everybody. And that's always been my nature. And so I've been working on this immune stuff before I even found this foundational nutrition. I used to coach my Pilates clients, hey, go to Whole Foods and get this, and this, and now I have strategies that work way better than those. And I know where they're sourced and I know where they're coming from. And I have more say and more experience with them. But in terms of eating enough protein, that's a really big deal. And so I work with my clients on that. And the peptides are like off the chain. So the other thing about peptides, when you're getting enough protein, your nails and your hair and your skin are going to respond. And I have found that I do not need to eat meat there's days when I can be a vegetarian. I can't be a vegetarian all the time. It's just my blood type and my body type. It doesn't work for me. I end up craving carbohydrates when I do that. But I can get away with eating significantly less meat and just a little bit because I have at least 1 scoop of these collagen peptides every day. And they're 20 grams of exceedingly bioavailable protein, which most people know it breaks down into amino acids, which is a very foundational cellular food that we need for many, many, many different functions in the body. Hormones, brain, it's countless, right? So that's been really exciting, is to figure out how to, not only that, but meat is also gotten so expensive, right? Especially beef. And so this is a way for people to have a very bioavailable, easy and quick. You can put it in anything, right? It can go in coffee and soups. It doesn't have to be cold. It can be hot. It goes in a smoothie, whatever. I just absolutely love helping clients optimize their protein intake through this peptide system and formulation.
Okay, you said the amino acids have countless functions. And I'm just like, I bet we could count them. So I Googled it, and Google literally says amino acids have countless functions in the body. It's like, Jen's
I
right.
promise I wasn't cheating. I didn't Google it.
Well, I was just like, I was thinking it was going to say like, 100 to the a million, some kind of big number, because, amino acids are very important. It's the building blocks of our body, our immune system, everything, like you said. People can be healthy eating whole food, plant-based diet. People can be healthy incorporating, I believe they can, incorporating some amount of animal products. However, what we know is the more we eat whole food plants, like fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, legumes, beans, and cooked appropriately. For example, we can, and I have interviews about this, but we can put lentils in the Instant Pot, and that breaks down the anti-nutrients and also makes it so easy to digest. 1 cup of lentils has 18 grams of protein, and the fiber helps with healthy weight loss, especially in children as well. There were studies done with children. You add a cup of beans or lentils each day, and children who were obese had sustained and healthy weight loss. And so it works the same with adults. I would recommend, even if you decide I'm not gonna avoid meat, right? If you're like, hey, I'm not gonna get rid of meat. I'm like, I love this concept of crowding out. Let's not shame the meat that's on your plate. Let's instead add things to your plate that you're going to eat first, right? So you're going to eat a cup of lentils with lunch and maybe a cup of beans with dinner. These are cooked, obviously cooked, cup of cooked lentils, cup of cooked beans. Soak them. Soak your lentils and beans overnight. Not orange lentils. That just becomes mush, but like black or green lentils. Soak them overnight. Then rinse them in a fine mesh strainer and then cook them in the Instant Pot. You can make soups and stews or mix them in with quinoa or rice. There's all kinds of ways you can do it. And frankly, I love the flavor. I think they're delicious. But by adding just 1 cup's not a lot. That fiber feeds your gut, healthy gut bacteria. We talked about probiotics, and you've got this in your immune kit. You've got this amazing complex, this probiotic complex, which also has enzymes. And I showed it once to one of my naturopaths, and her jaw hit the floor. She's like, "This is a really good supplement." She starts telling me about everything in it, and she's like, I'm impressed by this formulation." And I thought that was really neat. It's a superior formula, and we got to feed the gut bacteria, right? So we have to eat prebiotics, which is the fiber that feeds the gut bacteria. And then the gut bacteria poop out nutrients that we absorb that protect our brain, protect our heart, protect our immune system, and those are called postbiotics. So we have to first have to feed the gut bacteria what it needs. Stop putting stuff in the gut that it doesn't need, that feeds like the candida and the unwanted, microbes, right? We want to feed the good microbes. And that's why adding a cup of lentils every day, that's 18 grams of protein, and those fibers feed the gut bacteria. But also what those fibers do is they delay gastric emptying. And that signals to the brain that you feel fuller longer. So if you're someone who wants to maintain a healthy weight and blood sugar, or wants to naturally, healthfully lose weight, think about the craze around GLP-1 drugs, the craze around drugs that make us not have an appetite or have less of an appetite. If everyone added a cup of lentils or beans to every meal, you could even add it to your breakfast. Think about huevos rancheros, or think about you just have like a more of a Mexican style or Tex-Mex breakfast. Add some beans and lentils to every meal. You will feel significantly fuller, longer, sustained energy, good for your immune system. And then you will naturally lose weight because you're naturally eating less. So that's my thing on, because you said, talking about protein, if half your plate is protein, what's the other half? The other half, please let it be the rainbow of colors, because there's 1,000 phytonutrients, and that we know that they help the immune system. So we know there's so many studies on the brassica family, right? So broccoli, kale, cauliflower, we've got the cabbage and Brussels sprouts. Yeah, broccoli is like I believe the king in terms
Mhm.
of immune, but you can eat it raw, you can eat it cooked, you could throw it in a blender and, make a smoothie. That is very supportive of your immune system, and berries are very supportive, leafy greens, right? If you don't know how to eat leafy greens, steam them and drizzle some balsamic on them. It tastes delicious. It's so good for your heart health and immune function. And then the collagen peptides, I actually really, really love this supplement. I notice my nails got stronger. And when you have better hair, skin, and nails, it's a sign that your body has the nutrients it needs in the inside, because the body will sacrifice. So if you're not happy with your hair, skin, and nails, that means that your body's deficient in certain nutrients, because the body will do triage work and it'll sacrifice your hair, skin, nails first. When you're missing certain key nutrients, your hair's going to go gray and brittle sooner. Your skin's going to become saggier. Your nails will become thin and brittle. And that's because it's taking what little nutrients you're receiving from your food, you're absorbing, you're digesting, absorbing, and giving it to your heart and your lungs and your liver and the cardiovascular system. So when you start seeing healthy hair, skin, and nails from a supplement, you know that it's bathing all the 37.2 trillion cells in your body with those same nutrients and giving your body a chance to grow healthy. So your body won't grow healthy hair, skin, nails until the organs have had a chance to absorb the
First.
nutrients. The more essential parts of your body have had a chance to absorb those nutrients. So I've tried it, put it in smoothies. You can't even taste it. I put it in coffees. I've made like a London fog, kind of like steam some plant milk with some Earl Grey, little bit of honey,
Mhm.
and then blend it or just like stir it with the collagen peptides in it. It just thickens it a little bit, makes it taste like a latte, but there's no flavor. It's just like a thickening agent. So
Well, and also consider for people who are sensitive to caffeine, which myself is one of them. If I have my collagen peptides, well, I also drink an immune boosting. That's the other thing I've been doing with clients is this immune boosting mushroom coffee. And I would love to share with you some of these very exciting studies that I found on the very powerful different mushrooms that people are knowing more about lately. We have had the blessing of having a coffee formulated different, both adaptogenic and immune boosting mushrooms. And I encourage my clients to get on that. Even somebody that's sensitive to caffeine, like myself, if I mix a scoop of collagen peptides and I do mix it in with that coffee, even though it's less triggering in terms of the adrenal response or whatever it is that caffeine does to you. I'm not exactly sure what it does. It kind of affects my kidneys. It must be must be an adrenal response. But I feel way more grounded and I can actually drink my coffee and enjoy it and feel the benefit of it. Right, that protein and like you're saying, the thickness, and it's just more soothing and more grounding and more nutritive to add it to coffee for me. I gave you my recipe recently on what I often do in the morning, and you were like, "Wow." That was when I was also adding beef broth to that and kinda going overboard when, somebody told me they thought I needed more beef broth. I haven't been doing that so much, because I really am good with just the peptides. But, yeah, it's a great addition to anything because it makes it really easy to get in that bioavailable protein. And also about the beans, I give all of my people who are dealing with blood sugar regulation a cup of beans in their breakfast. That's one of the extra things that I do with regards to diet is for breakfast, you have whatever you're going to have, it's got to include beans and it's got to include greens. Greens and
Mhm.
beans. And oftentimes, if they're carnivore types, if they're not vegans or vegetarians, they'll have 2 or 3 eggs. Ideally, I'd like them to be farm fresh or at least cage free if they can, and a big chunk of greens sautéed or raw. I like to eat arugula raw personally. A big cup of beans, and then lately I've been playing around with you're talking about multicolored plates with multicolored fermented things. So,
Yes.
yeah, so I've been doing my beet sauerkraut and my regular sauerkraut and my oh my gosh, the white kimchi, just I don't know if you can get it anywhere, but it's just white kimchi. People are familiar a lot with the red. Well, the white has lemongrass in it, and it's a little bit more mild, and it is divine. So I'm always adding in fermented foods on my plate as well, and the more colorful, the better, because again, on a food level, that's going to help build that healthy microbiome and support the immune system at a gut level. So
Mm-hmm.
I just thoroughly am such a proponent and believer of having a plate that not only the different colors, but honestly, even in terms of like mindful eating, I think I personally have been doing this for myself. Like, I don't really let myself just sit there and eat something at the counter. Although it's tempting when I'm in a hurry, I really try to make my plate and make it sort of a work of art and make it creative, because when I'm done eating that and take the time and make sure my stomach's not in a knot and I'm not stressed, right? Because I think that meals are, there's a lot of sacredness around meals if we will honor it that way. And I don't think that obviously not part. I mean, we do go out to nice dinners and things like that, and we kind of honor that. But there's so much fast food, right? And so I've been really enjoying the art of my plate, I'll call it. And I think
Mm.
in implementing these different colorful, like my whole refrigerator, I have this whole shelf that's got all my kimchis and all my different salsas, and they're all bright reds and these beautiful that red salsa that you turned me on to from Trader Joe's, and all that stuff. It makes it really enjoyable to make a meal, and I'm very aware of the balance of what's going on my plate.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, and again, this is a little off topic, but I think it's important because ultimately we are what we eat. And in terms of cellular function, I mean, I know it's more important. I believe it's probably even more important what we say and what we think and what we feel. I think those things are equally, if not more important than what we eat. But it is on a physical level going to build our body, right? And so taking the time to make sure that we have enough protein or enough carbohydrates or enough greens, enough fiber, enough of this stuff to where every meal is balanced. There's a whole art around that. And I just love encouraging my clients to become their own best advocate on what they feel best on, right? And try different, like you do, try different ways of eating. Not everybody should eat meat. Not everybody should eat a lot of meat. Not everybody should be a vegetarian. You kind of have to find what works. And so I like to encourage clients to play around with different things. And I so appreciate all of the interviews you've done with, the ones that talk about no oil and, all the healthy diets and just all the different people that have brought different diets to light, right, on your podcast. But I always tell people, if they don't know what to do, start with just a paleo diet, like you were talking about. Start there. And if you get plenty of vegetables, get rid of the extra processed carbohydrates, whole grains are okay, but for some people, they're inflammatory. For some people, they're going to cause the same types of immune issues. It's not that common, I don't find, with rice, but still more and more I am seeing it, that some people really need to be totally grain free, and that
And
will
you
make a
can do
huge
sweet
difference.
potatoes, like sweet
Or
potatoes.
squash and beets and carrots and right? I mean,
But carbohydrates aren't the devil, right? We've got to.
no.
That's the thing is, I make sure we don't have diet dogma. I love that you said start paleo because it's like it's very clean. It's going back to a whole foods concept
Right.
of you could look at a picture of a paleo plate, and you could identify everything on that plate.
Exactly.
Whereas standard American diet, you're like, you don't know the ingredients. You could look at a plate and you're like, I mean, there could be some bioengineered weird stuff in there. You don't know the ingredients. But you could break everything down and be like, there's broccoli, there's a sweet potato, right? There's a cup of beans. Like you can identify it. And your body, if
Absolutely.
you can identify it, your body knows what to do with it. Right? If you if
Exactly.
you can't, that's why my husband doesn't like grocery shopping. He jokingly doesn't. My husband loves spending time with me. So I have a great relationship, but he jokes because he's like, "Oh no, not the food detective." Because when we go into the grocery store, if I have to pick up a package, I turn it over and I start reading the ingredients, and he's like, "No, the food detective, we're gonna be here for 90 minutes."
Right.
But if I see an ingredient that I don't understand or I can't recognize, my body's not gonna know how to recognize that. If it's made in a lab, if an ingredient is made in a lab, your body does not know what to do with it. And we
That's
walk
right.
around kind of eating like, trash pandas, right? We walk around treating our bodies like we're going to the dumpster and just eating out of a dumpster. And that's what it's like eating the standard American diet. We're just dumpster diving, eating all kinds of crap. Half of it was made in a lab. And we wonder why we're so sick. But you said we're off topic. No, no, no. There's no off topic here. I think all of this is very on point because it all comes back to supporting
It
the
does.
the immune system.
That's true.
So
Yep.
I wanted to, you just reminded me of this. I think God puts little things in my path, right? And then it's supposed to come up later. And I found this really interesting. I saw this morning that a 7-year-old girl with autism who had been nonverbal her whole life, had never said, mommy, I love you, had never spoken a word, underwent a fecal microbial transplant. And what that is, they take someone who has a really good amount of a variety of different bacteria. So really the healthiest gut bacteria they can find. They take their stool and then they culture the bacteria. They take the bacteria. So they're not like taking someone's, poop and putting it in you, right? They're culturing, they're taking the culture, right? And they do it in a way that's as clean as what one could expect. And then they put that into the girl's colon, right? So they're inoculating her colon with another human's microbiome. And after this treatment, she looked at her mom and said, I love you, and looked her in the eye and started talking. And this is a girl who was diagnosed with like a nonverbal form of autism. And that is how important your gut microbiome is, right? So that's how much it affects the function not only of your immune system, but your nervous system, your brain. Years ago, I interviewed Sarika Cernhaus. She, in case you're like thinking, oh gosh, now I've got to go get a fecal transplant, you don't. She had one of the worst gut microbiomes. I think she called it the Homer Simpson of gut microbiomes, just which is like the average American, right? If you've been on a course of antibiotics like once a year or something like that, you have a very poor gut microbiome and thus poor everything because the body relies so heavily, or our health relies so heavily on it. And what she started to do is eat small amounts of fermented foods every day, a variety. And now she's in the top 1%. All her health is better. She got totally better and gained resilience. So she can go out and eat pizza and drink some beer or something. And the next day she doesn't feel it at all.
Wow.
At all. Now she goes, I'm not going to eat that way all the time because I don't want to slide back to being sick. But
Yep.
when you gain health, like you get all the nutrients your body needs, you have a level of resilience that if you end up going out and eating something that's sort of off script, your body recovers so much faster from it. And if you have inflammation the next day, you're like, hey, that meal wasn't for me, right? But you can
Right.
recover so much faster. So she ate a variety of live culture fermented foods. Variety is key. Small amounts to start, like a teaspoon per meal, but a variety is key. So like you said, you have a whole shelf of colorful fermented foods. I have
Mhm.
interviews on how to, like you can type fermented foods into learntrail.com if you want to learn more. It's so easy to do it yourself. You could go and pay $10 a jar at the health food store, the healthier food store, grocery store. Make sure it's in the refrigerated section. It says live culture fermented on it and there's no vinegar in it. Or you just make it yourself. It's so cheap to make it yourself. And by doing that, you grow a robust and diverse, the key is diverse microbiome. So
Diverse.
now she's the top 1%. And the funny thing is, she has been offered thousands of dollars per stool, per bowel movement. Like she could sell her bowel movements. She could make $1,000 to $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a day selling her bowel movements, and she won't do it. She thinks it's weird. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I want I want to be paid to sell my poop. I know that sounds so funny, but like I'm just flushing $4,000 down the toilet every day, right? Like
Right.
But that's the proof. The proof is that if you eat healthy, you can grow a top 1% gut. This could be your goal. Like I want to be paid $5,000 a day to help other people inoculate their gut. That would be a really fun health goal, right? But the point being is that you can do this. It's little changes to your
Absolutely.
plate.
Absolutely. And speaking of the different variety, I mean, I love doing it with food as much as I can. And I've lately, particularly, I always have my kimchi or some form of something with most meals. But there are times when I haven't been able to do that for various reasons. And that's what I love about the probiotic complex that I use with people on either a regular basis. And it's part of the 20-day gut reset. It's also something that we do seasonally for those who want to, prevent, they want to optimize their gut, right? And prevent things, build up that barrier for immune fortitude, I would call it. But there's like 14 different strains of probiotics plus, 7 or 8 different enzyme blends. So, and they're at very, very high levels. So that's the benefit of the variety of repopulation. I think that's why your naturopath or whoever you showed that formula to was so impressed with it, because sometimes things work better when they're just one strain, but most of the time things work better when they're in harmony with other things that make them work better, like we call it cofactors or making things more bioavailable.
You let it slip. You said 21-day gut reset. And I remember the day, this was a few years ago, you called me up and you said, I have something that works. I think you said, do you have any clients that are having really bad gut issues? Because man, I found it. I found the the mecca, the whatever the word is for like the golden cup of gut resets. And you have really good results with most clients just on the straight up program without having to tailor it too much. But then there's a certain percentage of people who come to you and like you said, they have IBS or they have bloating or they have SIBO or they have, whatever's.
Or check this out, they have really bad skin issues like
Yeah.
psoriasis or eczema, or those people are going to go on that 20-day gut thing too. Because like I had one of my greatest testimonials of almost my whole career is this one gal who literally from head to toe had psoriasis and she wouldn't
Mm,
go out of her house.
mm.
And between putting her off getting off the 12 inflammatory foods, putting her on the basic 90 essentials plus a few extra things to optimize her histamine response, and the 20-day gut thing that we did, and she was ready to throw the bus at it, believe me, because she'd been suffering for so long, and literally before the 90 days was even up, she was completely clear of her skin issues.
I love that.
And it's like, she doesn't even it's funny because she doesn't even like, when I talk to her about it, I'm more excited than she is, which is weird because it's like this, and this is like this, people forget. People forget
Yep.
how bad it was, and I'm like, she's all happy and whatever, and I'm like, I know you don't remember how bad it was. I mean, she does, but you know what I'm saying? Like, she's just, like, happy and fine, and I'm so grateful because it was really not that difficult. And it was, maybe, it wasn't my least expensive program for somebody, right? But it was certainly worth what she paid, over the course. It was under $1,000 for 3 months. And she was, pretty much, and of course now she won't go off of anything, right? No, that's not true. She actually told me the other day, I think I'm going to reduce this extra support for histamine because I don't even itch, because she was itching too. And then we added something to help with that. And I'm just thrilled. But
Less than
anyway,
a
this
thousand dollars
less,
for 3 months, and that's the supplements that she purchased.
yes.
Everything, less than $1,000 for in 3 months. So you have to pay. She didn't pay 3,000 she didn't pay like $900 at once. It was
Nope,
over the
nope,
course of 3 months,
it was about 300-ish a month, I think we were at with
and
her.
she went from head to toe itching and unable to leave the house to now fully free. Like that is so cheap. That is so, you know what I mean? Like that is like, of course that's worth it.
Yeah, and the thing is that people just, and that person was devastated, okay? That was somebody that was, crying on their pillow like you were. She was really, really, really upset, rightly so, because she had no idea. And of course, the doctors, all they were doing was giving her cortisone,
Steroids. Yep.
steroids. Yep. And
Which
I've had
harm
clients get
us.
really sick from the
Yeah.
steroids that the
Yeah.
doctors have given them. So
Yeah.
it's just thrilling. I mean, that's where, and again, not everybody's going to be willing and ready to step into it. But I really encourage all of my clients, like I'm coming to the point where I will, I would get somebody on this emergency system, no problem. Emergency, I'll give that to anybody. And it's easy and it's not that expensive and it's great. But if people are really serious about overcoming and walking in health, it's going to take obviously a commitment, right? It's not the remote control version of things. And you and I both know that. We've both been through a lot of things to overcome a lot of stuff, but it's so worth it, right? I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
it's
It's a fun
you.
adventure. It's not tedious. It's not arduous. It's a fun adventure, right?
It is a fun
To
adventure.
me, it's like every day you wake up feeling better and better and better. So to me, it's like, yeah, okay, that's a commitment, but like I'm committing to stay on a program that I feel better every day. Like what's the trade-off?
Well,
It's like we
right.
do have to give up old ways of being. We have to
Yes.
give up, we have to like create healthy boundaries around family that want us to eat the old way, right?
Right.
And for some people, that's like really difficult, but that is an opportunity for emotional, mental, spiritual, energetic, physical healing, right? In the family of
is.
healing. It's you stepping into your power and saying, I love you and I'm going to eat this way. I'm not eating that way because this way is my new way of eating for my health, or I'm on a 30-day or I'm on a 90-day plan to heal my body. And that threatens some family members because they have codependence, because your health journey feels threatening to them because they don't want to change, especially if they have addiction. Like if you decide to no longer drink alcohol and your partner gets upset with you because you're putting a mirror to their face and they're seeing how much they drink and they don't want to change and they think you're asking them to change, you got to put your oxygen mask on first, right?
Exactly.
So now this isn't with everyone because like feel so blessed to have an amazing husband who, if I went downstairs and said, I'm eating this for the next 90 days, he'd be like, no problem. I'm here to support you. Like he doesn't feel like it's a threat, right? But I do know people, and I have been in even with certain friends who are like, who will feel threatened by it because like I'll say, okay, I'm dairy free. And they're like, well, where do you get your calcium? And where do you get your this? And they get all excited. And it's like, that's their stuff. You got to get, that's their stuff. And anything that seems challenging really is an opportunity for healing and growing. But if you see yourself fully healed in 90 days or in 6 months, if you see yourself fully overcoming something that's major health challenges, or if you just want to not get sick every flu season, like again, I call it flu season, but like, sugar season,
Right.
it's going to take changing, right? If you want to be the status quo, you've probably heard me say this one, but think about the statistics. The average Canadian diet, the average American diet, right? Most countries kind of follow how we do it in America, right? Like McDonald's and processed food and alcohol is a common thing every day, and sugary drinks and Monster energy drinks or whatever. Half the food, half the calories you're consuming is made in a lab or more, right? That's the average. This is not you, the listener, but like the average American out there. If you want the health outcomes that the average person has, so think 70% of Americans are on at least one prescription medication. That number's probably gone up. Look at the statistics of obesity, of heart disease, of diabetes, of chronic inflammatory conditions, of degenerative conditions. Look at the health of the last 30 years of someone's life from like age 50 on, right? The average statistics. Just go do some internet digging on the of someone who's eating the standard American diet. If that's your goal, if that's what you want to have, then just keep doing what you're doing. But if you rage against that, if you're like, I do not want to be a statistic. 1 in 3 people are going to have cancer in their lifetime. If you're like, I'm going to be the person that doesn't, if you're like, I'm going to die of natural causes at 99 years old, right? Or 120 years old. We genetically can live to be 120. If you want to be, still hiking or skiing in your 90s, you absolutely can. If you want to feel like you're, 40 in your 90s, you absolutely can. And it takes not doing what everyone else is doing, because the larger part of the population is showing you that If you go with the flow, that's the result you're going to get. But you have to go
Sure.
against the grain. You have to go be the black sheep, be the salmon, completely against what the average person's doing in order to build health and maintain health. And you can build health at any age.
Well, and also understanding though that concept of doing just that is not against our nature. It's how it was supposed to be. And we
Mm,
got into this whole, unfortunately so motivated by the almighty dollar or money, right? In terms of the way that food is handled in our world. It's not thought through in a way to support life.
yeah.
It's thought through to support financial gain. And so we are just, wheels in the cog supporting that, not even realizing it, being raised with it, and we just kind of need to wake up, right? On so many
Yep.
levels, but with regards to the food train, I mean, that's I think some of the people in power now are starting to make changes, and you know,
Fingers
the
crossed. I
we'll see.
just, yeah, well, we'll
But
see. I just saw something really interesting. So you know how more and more people are getting on GLP-1 drugs, and
yes,
I'm terrified for them. If you're on it, please, please, please do the research on the side effects, because the more I see, the more I'm terrified of these GLP-1 drugs. It is shrinking people's hearts, like you are losing heart mass.
muscle.
You're losing heart muscle, and I don't know if you can get that back. That is terrifying to me. Also, people like going blind, like it's really scary. But I understand that if someone's overweight and they're struggling, it's, that, and you've
It's
tried
kind of a
everything
too
else,
much.
right? It's like it's
It's too quick of a fix, though. People like that quick fix, and they want something that's gonna
but
have effects, but they're not
I
even
would say
considering the end result.
I would say though that they might be considering it, but that they're going based on what their doctor told them. The doctor didn't give them full informed consent, that's on bad of the doctor to not give true informed consent. So they're not actually
Mhm.
being told the full picture.
Right.
And I bet you anything, most people that get on GLP-1 drugs have been struggling with weight for years, have been trying, but
Yes.
most diets are set up to fail people. And then the people feel like that they failed the diet, but the diet failed them. Two really good books, Proteinaholic by Dr. Garth Davis. That was very cathartic for me to read. Or just listen to the audiobook is great. And then How Not to Diet by Dr. Michael Greger. I had him on the show. You can go to learntohealth.com, type in Dr. Michael Greger and listen to him. That is a phenomenal book. Also really good audiobook. And he breaks down 5,000 studies on diet and makes it so that's easy, actually a really fun book. It's not dry. It's really fun to listen to. And what you get is that most diets are set up to fail people. So if you've been if you feel like you've been failing as a dieter for years, and then the doctor comes and says, "Hey, all you have to do is take this and you're going to just naturally lose weight." It's like, "Oh, finally," right? So of course they're going to it. So here's the thing. So many people are on GLP-1 drugs, and I didn't realize how many. So many people are on it that Walmart has noticed that people are purchasing less groceries because they're consuming, like, because you end up eating like what, 500 calories a day or something like that. When you're on GLP-1, you just eat less calories. So you're buying less groceries. And so Walmart has actually seen a decrease in their grocery profits. So there's a major company that helps food companies make their foods more hyper palatable to trick the brain. Like, for example, Doritos they make the Doritos even more crispy, to become more craveable,
Yep.
or they add more monosodium glutamate to trick it's a excitotoxin to make you think it tastes really good, like explodes with flavor, right?
Right.
And so these food companies have now gone back to this one company that helps food companies make food more craveable, and they're now redesigning the top brands. So I said Doritos. I don't know if Doritos actually is doing I don't know which brands. I just know the top brands are now reformulating to try to combat the GLP users by making food even more craveable.
My goodness.
We have to, and I have a whole interview on this about food chemists.
Mm-hmm.
that if you buy food that comes in a package, now I don't mean Whole Foods, because like I could buy like a package of rice, right? Like,
Right.
or, a package of, I don't know, potato mix or something like, I don't, or a package of lentils. But if you buy a package like of crackers, cookies, something that is like particularly snacks, they have a team, that company has a team of food scientists that figure out exactly how much salt and how much other chemicals to make it maximum craveable so that
Mm.
you don't get satiety from it and you want to continue eating it and buy more of it. So this is why it's so important. Like you said, go, like if you don't know what to do, start with paleo, because what you're doing is you're filling your plate with whole foods, whether it's plant or you've got some animal foods on there, but just go back to nature. And it's actually really easy to cook this way. I'm little side promotion. If you go to learntohealth.com/home kitchen, I have a whole course on how to cook from scratch that makes it really quick and delicious. But just, I mean, it's so easy these days. You could type in, paleo on YouTube and find some, quick 15-minute paleo recipes. So I'd like, just type that into YouTube. But you've got sweet potatoes are amazingly delicious. Even I like to cook an entire tray of sweet potatoes a week and then have them cold in the fridge. And I'll just grab one and eat it like as a snack, eat it just cold. It's delicious. You can put it in a smoothie and make a sweet potato smoothie with some pumpkin spices. And, you could put in your collagen peptides in there. And Jen, you could put the ones that you sell in there and get whatever plant milk or in there or water, and it's delicious. Or you can, reheat it with broccoli and whatever protein you choose. So
Yep.
you can prep. But anyway, get away from packaged foods because it is getting worse and worse. So okay, that's my soapbox. I really want to dive into the talking about the immune system, the emergency immune system kit. So
Yes,
I think
ma'am.
what we've covered, which is important, is you've got the foundation stuff, and that's great. And you should go to takeyoursupplements.com and talk to Jen and get on the foundation stuff. And then you've got the emergency kit. So when you wake up with any kind of symptom that makes you think a cold or flu is coming, you jump on this stuff and it blows it out of your system.
That's right. One of the things that has come to be so obvious to me is the concept of synergy. And particularly when working with immune things, there are certain viruses,
I
certain
hope you enjoyed part A of this 2-part interview. I'll be releasing episode 562 very shortly, so you'll be able to hear the rest of this conversation. In today's interview, we covered some of the ideas, the concepts around foundation, and these things, when we do them, we're healthy all year long, and our body is able to easily fight off whatever comes its way. We build ourselves up so when we are under times of stress, just think there's moments in our life where we're put to the test. A friend of mine just got a puppy and she's training a puppy, and that's upset her neighbor that lives downstairs, and now he's yelling at her and she's having issues, and then she had a problem with her job, and it's just just sometimes life piles on us, and that was enough to just knock her off her feet, and she has been fighting little colds ever since. And I saw this with my mom. Back in the 80s, she was working super hard, 7 days a week. She ran her own business in the fashion industry. And she'd wake up in the morning, put on her stilettos and just be gone 12 hours a day, go, 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 go. And then she just couldn't recover from one little cold after another. And her doctor, her MD, put her on a course of antibiotics. It was probably a virus that she was fighting, some opportunistic virus, but she just couldn't get over it. And so for 6 months, her doctor put her on, I was about 6 years old. And her doctor put her on just antibiotic after antibiotic, and that caused her to have candida because it broke her body down even worse. So that's kind of the things we were talking about in this interview today, that the foundations of nutrition are so important for your overall immune system. And I watched my mom as a kid, I watched her turn her immune system around by focusing on whole foods, getting rid of packaged foods, seeing a naturopathic physician who taught us about this. She started taking prebiotic and we didn't even know what back then in the 80s, no one called it prebiotic, but we just knew to take certain fibers. We had these fiber drinks we would do every morning with fresh squeezed juice, and certain probiotics we would take. And my mom did everything that you would learn from takeyoursupplements.com. She did all these cool foundation things, and I watched her rebuild her health so that her immune system was strong again. And when we follow these foundations, we build ourselves up. And when we let the world enter our life and like really impact us, like we just kind of start eating from vending machines, right? We just start forgetting that our body really needs daily vigilance when it comes to supporting our overall health and those foundation nutrition. So when I say foundation nutrition, I mean your hydration, your sleep, getting some sunlight, getting some movement, but especially the 90 essential nutrients the body needs. And that's something that takeyoursupplements.com can help you with when we get on that. And of course, remove the fuel from the fire, right? What's putting fuel on the fire? So processed foods, chemicals that are sprayed on our foods, alcohol. You know, I know a lot of people like to come home and have a glass of alcohol, and if it really does negatively impact you in the long run, it tears down. It tears you down. It does not build you up. So if you wanted to build yourself up and build that strong foundation, then these are the practices that we discussed today. These are the practices that are going to get you there. Be sure to tune into next episode, because this is when we get into the emergency kit. And that's when, you know, you get hit by a cold. Either maybe you are a little torn down and you want to build yourself up, and then you get slammed by a cold. That's when you want this stuff, because it blows it out of your system. Or you take it, even if you've been building, you have a strong foundation, and just something goes around, you feel a little scratchy throat. You hit this stuff hard at the beginning. It doesn't manifest. It doesn't take hold in your body, which is so cool. So you want to reduce sick days in total, then be sure to tune in to next episode 562. Until next time, I'd like to leave you with a little prayer. Father God, thank you so much for the Learn True Health listener. Please bless the ears that are hearing this. Please guide us to find the information we need that helps us heal our body emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically, and energetically. Please fill our bodies with your love and your grace. Thank you for your forgiveness. Thank you for your love, and thank you for your guidance. Please help us to see our lives through the lens of gratitude, to continually praise you and think about all the things that we are grateful for, that we have already. You know, it's so easy to think about what we want and what we don't have, and to ask you for what we want. But we really are blessed with so much that you have given us. So today I thank you for everything you have given us, all the healing, all the knowledge, all the love. And I thank you for your continual blessings that you're pouring out onto all the listeners of Learn True Health podcast. Amen.